Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here the Watchman. I'm here today with you for our weekly installment with Mark Sutherland, all the way from London, England. I think Mark, we're going to have to come up with a name for this show, and I don't know, maybe it's Rants with Mike and Mark. I don't know, or something like that. But Mark,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. Lovely to see you. And yes, rants with Mark and Mike, or Mike and Mark. That sounds a good idea as a show, actually.
Well,
Hmm.
we'll see what we can come up with there for everybody. Now, listen, folks, I want to start off today by telling you there's some exciting stuff here happening at Hear the Watchman, but we need your help to bring it all the way home. Jeannie and I have gone all in 2020. We've been at this since, you can see I just about yanked my whole microphone out there. Uh, we have been at this since 2016. We are going on our 14th conference. Do the math on that. You'll realize how many conferences we do per year. But we are now going to do everything we can to take it to the next level, which means that I will be building out a full blown studio, and we are going to be in an office where we'll be close to the post office so we can drop your DVD orders and things you need right there at the post office and get them out in a timely manner. Lots of stuff going on, but we need your help. Please, if it's in your heart, go to hearthewatchman.com and click the donate button, or send me an email or a contact and ask me how you can help. There's a million ways you can help, not just financially. There's other ways that you can help us as well. So, Jeannie and I prayed about this, and we're comfortable putting everything we have on the line to do it. But it would be nice to have a little participation and help from all of you. So, the donate button here, thewatchman.com. So, let's transition from that right into what Mark and I are going to talk about today. And the first thing on the subject line today is Field McConnell. Now, you bring up the name Field McConnell, and it can sometimes create some volatility out there, which I say is great because it's making you guys think. And that's an important thing, that we all think and take a look at what's going on in the world. And this is hideous what happened to him because it affects all of us that are YouTubers and truthers, and it could eventually affect you right in your own home. Field McConnell is an expert on the Malaysian air disaster. He was called over to Malaysia to testify. Uh, he has been a truther involved in exposing the Clintons and Pedogate, and as of late, he's been very, very into exposing child trafficking and the whole thing with Epstein and all the connections to Mark's side of the pond there, without naming names. Uh, all of that. Well, he was arrested. Okay, the authorities came and took all of his equipment, and they put him in jail for some trumped up charges filed by someone in Broward County, Florida. I am not going to mention her name. You can just go and find, just Google Field McConnell. You'll see her name, but she's an attorney. One of these TV star attorneys, like Judge Judy kind of a thing. And she's down in Florida. She happens to be heavily involved in the child trafficking rings down there and all of that. And you can go to the Field Report, and you want to look for an episode called Field of Honor, where they actually break down the charges against Field, and they also talk about the warrant that he was arrested under and how completely bogus it is. In the warrant, they state things about Field as being in Broward County, Florida on certain dates. He just simply wasn't there, So complete lie, Mark. I mean, that's the way, and that's the way they operate. If they can't get you on something legit, they're just going to cook it up. They're just going to make something up. And this is what's happening. As soon as he started touching Epstein and that whole Broward County underground seething cesspool of child pornography and child abuse and sex trafficking of children, as soon as he started touching on that, he's locked up. Now, we're fully confident that he will get out, and Mark and I will be on Monday, Veterans Day. He happens to be a United States Marine Corps retired pilot, fighter pilot. On Veterans Day, we are going to interview Field from jail. So you're not going to want to miss that. We're doing that show at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you are interested, it'll be posted up by, I would assume, around noon Eastern Time. So you might want to be there for that. The danger with all of this, and I know Mark, and I'm going to bring Mark in here in just a second. The danger in all of this, if that can happen to Field, it could happen to me, because I'm a truther. I'm exposing stuff out there. I mean, they could come knock on my front door here, walk right in the house, take all my equipment, boom, done, shut down. They've got all my contacts, all of you. It's crazy. Mark, what do you see going on? I mean, we're praying for Field, but the underlying tones of what's happening here, what do you see going on?
Well, I've had the pleasure and the privilege to meet him and his wife, so very grateful for that. What is going on is that you wonder whether various people are flexing their muscles because they are extremely concerned about what is about to be exposed. What it shows us, we were discussing this, is that when we have people that we know personally, etc., and we do, when the authorities are coming against them, or people are fiddling with people's brakes on their cars and all this kind of vehicles and all this kind of thing, which is true, then not in this case, but in another case, which shall be named nameless, this is real. This asymmetric attack is absolutely real. It was also highlighted, and there is a link between the two, and then there's a link over here. So we've had the incredible Liz Krogan, who is amazing, who regularly does stuff on YouTube, has been investigating all the paedophilia stuff for years and years and years, and amazing journalist, regularly goes on Hagmann and Hagmann, etc., and has been talking about all this. So she has been talking about Epstein, etc., for a long time. And there was a case that she talked about, I think, in the 80s within California, involving like a primary school of youngsters who were saying that they were being child trafficked. And I can't think of the particular school or the area, and that there were underground tunnels and all of this. And Liz, over the last couple of days, has been talking about this. And when these tunnels are filled in, these dreadful things have happened to these kids. It also goes back to the infamous Franklin case and all this kind of thing. These are really, really real. And then suddenly you have front groups set up like Finders, as Liz was talking about, to find these trafficked kids. It's then set up by the CIA and all the influence and all these kind of thing. Now, it then makes me think over here, the kind of equivalent that we then would have. I'm not going to name it, because I need to look into certain aspects of this. But when you have particular helplines or stuff like that that are supposed to be helping young children find young children, stop abuse and all the rest, you wonder how these helplines can actually be abused by people who wish to do that, who might have access to that information and find out where these children are, etc. I'll just leave it like that. So where's the next link?
Yeah,
we just had this thing with ABC, when we have this journalist on ABC. This is the thing we want to say, going Epstein. Liz Krogan made a really, really interesting observation. The journalist was looking and saying, well, I'm really, really annoyed. I'm really pissed, as she said, over the fact that I've had this information for a last couple of years, but ABC basically told me to either sit on it, or there was a threat. I'll just say this, a threat that she said in regard to Prince Andrew, that if you expose all this, then you're not going to have interviews with Kate Middleton and William, her husband, and all this kind of thing. Now, we're not going to go into Prince Andrew. There's a load of information out there, and it doesn't look very good, one iota, right? It really doesn't. But the fact that you've got a journalist going, I feel really pissed over the fact that I've had this information. Liz Krogan said a brilliant thing where she turned around and said she was annoyed because what about this journalist saying, well, look at what's been happening to these children? I've tried to expose all this information, but she's more annoyed over the fact that her story didn't get out her. She couldn't have the crowning glory of this. So let's just take that. ABC, covering it up, not promoting this story. Other media outlets would then do the same. And we are at a really, really crucial point, because people like Field are pushing the envelope to expose things. And then all we have is Ukraine, fake news, this, that, and the other, and that you have reached the point in regard to your media where they are all weaponized. They're not doing true journalistic investigations. They are pushing an agenda that says we are left wing, we want this utopia, and anything that we can do against the President of America, we are going to do. We're not going to report news, we're not going to be fair. So it then comes down to people like Field, people like Liz Croghan, people then like all of us to speak the truth and to gently push. Because what it means is that we're starting to go into areas where this is uncomfortable, where there is a cost to pay here. And sadly, Field has paid that cost at the moment of a threat. We've seen that over here with Tommy Robinson and stuff like that, and others. This is uncomfortable when we start to have friends or people that we're privileged to have met and know totally in the crossfire, Mike.
Amen, Mark. I mean, and it's just to me, it's very frightening because you look at what happened to Field, okay,
yeah.
and I feel that it's almost like, Field versus the Epstein machine, and he's out there. It's like a David and Goliath story. It truly is. And people are saying, oh, Field McConnell's a liar. They didn't free all these children in the military bases or underneath that. Well, what do you expect them to do, folks? Do you expect them to come out and say on network television, oh, we just freed 1,200 or I don't know how many kids from underneath these military bases that were held captive? You really think that they're going to admit that? No, they're not going to. So instead what they do is they try and spin this thing and they try to make truthers like Field McConnell a villain.
Yeah.
They try to make them a villain because they're trying to protect something that they don't want to get out. And Mark, when we start to dance along that line of censorship and of killing freedom of speech, which is guaranteed to us here in the United States under our Constitution. And I'll tell you what really drives me is if you tell the truth, people try and shut you down. But if you're just out there spewing lies and stuff, the first people that raise their hand, they're going to say, oh, what I'm saying is protected in the Constitution under free speech. So, it's a crazy world, and it's frightening to see where we're going with all of this.
Absolutely.
I mean, does it from someone, and I don't really want to call you an outsider because you really are an insider. As far as I'm concerned, you're a United States citizen. But looking from that side of the pond over to this side of the pond, does it frighten you?
Yes, it does. And you paid me a great compliment. I appreciate that, being an honorary United States citizen from this part. Thank you. Yes, it does frighten me.
Tell that to Homeland Security when you go through. Hey, Mike said I'm an honorary citizen.
I don't have to go through your and stop patting me down in that particular way and enjoying it. But there we go. But the thing is, we digress. That yes, it is frightening. You said a really important thing, that you have a First Amendment that is protected by a Second Amendment. I think our free speech, codified law, common law, slowly evolving into that. I personally think that our free speech is massively, massively under attack. It really is. I mean, you heard me when I was in Orange County, and I read a letter that shall be named nameless right now from my local MP when I was talking about, spying on the Trump campaign. Oh, no, we didn't do that. But we're all complicit, really. All the Five Eyes are complicit. we then say, actually, later on, all this comes out, where Brennan and CIA and Hannigan, who was then running the GCHQ, then me. Yes, I am very concerned about that. I'm very, very concerned. We have to say things. The politically correct brigade are shutting everything down. We've now reached that point. We're reaching that point, as Coach Dave often says, that, with the T-shirts, truth sounds like hate. We're reaching the point of, as Christians, you believe in the Bible, you stand on that. That must mean that you hate this and you hate that. No, we are standing on the truth. So we are being pushed out of the public square. We're being pushed out of all that. And we have to raise our voice and speak the truth. So yes, it does concern me. The other thing is, this is the two tier to this. One of the reasons why it concerns me is because of the fact that we have to push back and we have to speak the truth. But it also encourages me when the fact that more and more, as we try and get into the center of what's going on, we are then knowing that we've got to rely on each other, but we then see that what we believe in is absolutely true, because it begins to come against friends of ours. It begins to threaten us and all this kind of thing. And we have reached a point. There are a number of Christians over here. An organization called Christian Concern defends. They get a number of phone calls a week from Christians in the workplace, working in public bodies, where they say, well, as a Christian, I'm being threatened with this. This company is asking me, or say if you work in the National Health Service in regard to abortion or whatever, or if you're wearing a cross in a certain place, you're being persecuted for that. The persecution, if people don't think it's real, the persecution is here. We are in a time of persecution. And this is going to get worse and worse and worse. And it is going to really begin to rack up, because our nation, we're passing ungodly laws and all the rest. It has to be said. So for me to even say that, it'd be like, well, Mark, with those kind of attitudes, we can't have you working in this particular industry anymore, or that particular industry anymore. That's how it's getting. That's how it's coming. That's how this is uncomfortable. When we want to discuss things like Sharia law and all the rest, we discuss all these things from a point of history. One of the biggest things that's happened, say, within Europe is a rewriting of history. I was talking about a book by Batior that I just got to hurry up and speed read. The whole thing of our history, the fact that we look in Europe under their constitution of the Lisbon Agreement, there is no reference to God. There's no reference to the Enlightenment. There's no reference to the Christian heritage of Europe. Well, this is deeply, deeply concerning. History is written by the victors, Mr. President, and all this kind of thing. And we have to really, really educate ourselves, Mike. No wonder that Hitler had a massive burning books session. And the equivalent of that is through the digital media. People often say to me, oh, I've got my Kindle. And I say, well, that's very nice for you. I want a book. I want a book in solid form, because that cannot be turned off. I've got a book and I've got facts, which I can then read. Kindle, digital, even this, God forbid, our channels can be turned off. And we have got to really educate ourselves and have all the facts of everything before us. We really do. As that verse in scripture says, as a lamb is silent before its shearers, I will give you the words to say in the appointed hour, when we look at when Christ was on trial. All I can say is it's not going to get easier, Mike. I really don't believe that. I think it is getting harder and harder. And I was just saying to you before we came on air, for the first time in my life, I'm thinking of this issue. When we voted to leave the EU in 2016 on the 23rd of June, and I have constantly said we're going to leave, I would never have thought 3.5 years later that we still haven't left. I would never have thought that we would have moved from the 29th of March to the 12th of April to the 31st of October, which is gone. And now it's gone back to the 31st of January next year. And we've got yet another election. And we've got politicians going up and down this country who are absolute barefaced liars that said, we will be leaving. We will go with the vote that you have made. I watched a little clip on via Twitter today, where there were, I think, members of the Labour Party trying to go around and canvass, and this brilliant Brexiteer just shouted at them and said, "Don't come on my property. You are all a bunch of liars. You have promised this, but you have not delivered. And if we don't leave the EU, if we do not leave, we are done as a country. Our democracy doesn't mean anything. It means diddly diddly squat." So I'm actually thinking, are we actually going to be leaving? And I am one person that's gone, we're leaving. You know, these are the facts. Let's go. Democracy has to be respected. And we've got 75% of our members of parliament, or, 25% who voted, who wanted to leave, 75% who wanted to remain. They're all out there canvassing. And if I'm honest with you, Mike, I'm not paying attention to any of that. I just see it as absolute drama. I'll finish. The key is this. Speaking to myself, is that judgment starts in the house of God. There is no real repentance over here. I don't see that. I'm going to be very unpopular in saying that. Very. And we need to. And we need to be praying. That is the only answer to get us out. That is the only answer. But the spiritual battle that is over this, and then we have got to get out. And if we don't get out, as I say, our country is done. And all the fake news, we've just had another bit of fake news where one classic MP, who I have to say I don't have any time for, Anna Soubry, one big Remainer, according to something I saw on Twitter, she just staged an interview, which is complete fake, with someone who voted to leave, but is actually a member of the Liberal Party, that are voting to remain. You know, we have got to have I'm talking to myself, I really am, without putting my heart on the line. We have got to be really aware of this whole thing of fake news, of what is going on, because the truth is being so twisted. We only have to. It's not surprising that President Trump is going through what he's going through in regard to a coup of the left. And then over here we have got this massive cultural Marxist push within Corbyn as well. We are a few weeks away from having a communist walking in to number 10, if that's how bad it gets. And I am not exaggerating. This is it. So then we have to decide what we're going to do. A man that wants to sell all the private schools, sell land, do this, do that, and the other, and turn it into one big socialist super state. And just finally, sorry, while I'm in the middle of the semi-rant, a friend of mine today, to boots on the ground, had a member of the Labour Party canvassing and knocking on his door. So my friend David, shout out, that's what happened to him today. And he turned around and said, well, he's a Conservative voter, a big Brexiteer, and he turned around and said, so you want socialism? Look at Venezuela. And this man turned around and said, well, it's not Venezuela's fault. It's because he blamed America.
Oh, of course.
Of course. So David turned around and said, what do you mean blamed America? You, Chavez, etc., Attal, you bring in socialism.
Yeah.
You know, that is what you then bring in. I mean, so he called this guy out. He didn't even know half of it. He turned around and said, Corbyn, he's a communist. No, he's not. Momentum. People are uneducated. The wool is being pulled over their eyes, and on a bad day, it makes me want to turn around, find a wall, and bash my head against it, because I just find it deeply frustrating. Sorry, I'll finish.
Well, I mean, the truth is dead. I mean, that is. I mean, what they push out there through the media. I mean, listen, even in the schools here, in the universities, the young kids here, the ones that are so enamored with socialism. I mean, you know, it's like I want to tell them it's like 2 a.m. in the bar and the lights are going down, and whatever that is at the end of the bar looks pretty good to you. That's what socialism is, you know. Yeah. It is a brutal excuse for a government, but they push it, and they push it here. The kids here believe that everything that's going on in Venezuela is America's fault as well. And that is the fake news. However, we're told that that is the real news, and that everything you and I say, Mark, That's the fake news. This
Absolutely.
is where it becomes dangerous. Well, listen,
Mm.
we're 25 minutes into our show today, and so that's going to wrap it up for us, folks. Again, Hear the Watchman needs your help. Please go to hearthewatchmenmen.com, click that donate button, and just throw a little change in there, whatever you can. We'd greatly appreciate it. Mark and I will see you Monday here on a special edition of the Watchman's Report for Veterans Day. Mark, thanks so much for taking time out of your day.
Not at all. Absolute pleasure, my brother. Many thanks. See you soon.
See you soon. Well, again, folks, that's it today for this edition of the Watchman's Report and for Rants with Mark and Mike. And we'll see you here again next time. And until then, please remember, there's nothing you can't do with Jesus in your heart, except nothing at all. Get out there, get busy. Don't buy the story they're telling you. Do your own research and find the truth. That's it for today. God bless and thank you.